Welcome to Hockey Inside Out. I'm your host, Adam Susser, coming to you from downtown Montreal with Stu Cowan, Chris Nilan, and CBC Daybreak's Andie Bennett. Let's take a look at what we're going to be talking about on today's show. Number 1, did Monday night's bruiser between the Habs and Bruins reignite the NHL's longest-standing rivalry? Number 2, should the Canadiens be concerned by Shay Weber's drop in offensive output? Number 3, does Michel Therrien deserve more respect for guiding the Habs to the top of the NHL standings? Number 4, our HIO viewer question of the week asks, should the Canadiens re-sign Carey Price after next season? You think? If so, at what price? No pun intended. And number 5, we ask our panel what their take is on Carey Price's pummeling of the Devils Kyle Palmieri during last Thursday night's game. Let's start the show. There were 18 minutes of penalties in the first period of Monday night's game between the Habs and the Bruins. Fans were also treated to plenty of highlight reel hits and even a welterweight division fight. Do you think the game reignited the Habs-Bruins rivalry?
Well, if anybody knows about that rivalry, he's sitting right here.
I think on the scale of rivalries and crazy games, it really wasn't all that crazy compared to what I've been involved in, you know what I mean? But watching it in the past and seeing it now, that's probably as intense as this rivalry has gotten the last few years during the regular season. Maybe when Lucic was here and Yemlin was running them and all that, but the Bruins came in with a game plan, I think, to take their speed away and try and play physical. And Alexei Yemlin obviously initiated the first real big check of the game, which I think woke everybody up to really who they were playing, and then things went from there. But yeah, it's been quiet, and it was nice to see all that craziness during that argument.
How many penalty minutes did you have in that one game against Boston? Do you remember? It was an NHL record, I believe.
No, that was, I was in Boston. It was against Hartford.
Oh, okay.
But by our standards of rivalry, action, and certainly against the Bruins of late, I mean, look, everybody knows those rivalries are built through the postseason. Boston hasn't exactly been tearing up the postseason the last few years, but I don't know if anybody thought that rivalry was dead, though. Then they don't pay attention to those Bruins games, because there's always something. This was the best one that I've seen in a while. Yeah, exactly.
When Lucic left, though,
there's peaks and valleys for sure.
When Lucic left, it did take something away. He was by far the most hated player, but Emelin basically brought the rivalry back. I mean, that hip check on Brad Marchand won't forget that. I mean, the next game, that'll be something to watch when the Canadiens and Bruins play again. But Emelin he's become one of the most feared hitters in the league right now.
Yeah, he goes low with the hip sometimes. So sometimes I think it might be a little too dangerous, but it's so exciting to watch. So you gotta love that.
And paired with Shea Weber, that's a pretty scary 1-2 punch.
It's a dangerous game, Andy.
I want it to be all like flowers and butterflies, you know?
And Yemlin, that's his game. He's got to play physical. If he doesn't play physical, why be out there? And, listen, he can move the puck. He gets involved. He's certainly having a great season as far as Alexei Yemlin goes. And that's a big part of his game, playing physical. He hits to hurt, which is a good thing.
And Brendan Gallagher stood up to defend Andrew Shaw after that hit that he took, which is Gallagher after the game was sort of joking, saying, I get in one fight a year. He says, I wish it had lasted a little longer. But, Michel Therrien said it was another sign of leadership by Brendan Gallagher, and I'm sure Andrew Shaw appreciated it.
Okay, Shea Weber was held off the scoring board once again last game. He's now gone 7 games without a single point after leading the Habs in goals for pretty much all of October and November. Should we be worried about his drop in offensive output?
I think so. He has 1 goal in the last 9 games. No goals in the last 9 games, 1 in the last 13. And the power play against the Bruins went 0 for 5. That's one of the reasons they lost. And Shea Weber is a key on that power play. So I think if he's not scoring on the power play, it is a concern.
Yeah, I don't worry about it too much. I don't worry about the stats as much as some people do. Again, the team is playing well. And the power play is going to go in cycles. Listen, how many teams are up around 24 in the National League? I think the leading team is 24 something, the Rangers or someone. But the Canadiens are up over 20. They were doing good for a while. Teams adjust. They've taken Weber away. They've had guys shadowing him and taken away. They're going to have to find a way to exploit that now and focus on getting the puck to somebody else. They got people covering Shea Weber. So you got to look for those seams. You got to set guys up in different spots. You got to have foot movement, and he does a lot of other things on the ice than just score on the power play.
Yeah, I think you have to look, at what you get from Shea Weber, the player, before you start getting concerned about his scoring numbers. Yes, maybe they've gone down, but when you see what he does outside of that, he's still the same player. He doesn't strike me as a hot and cold guy. You just don't see that. You always are getting kind of the same performance by Shea Weber, but of course, teams are going to adjust and they're going to take away a lot of his strength on the power play, and he's not the only reason why the power play has dwindled, but obviously it's going to affect his numbers.
I'd like to see Michel Therrien put Radulov back on the point on the power play and put him there. I think it gives him another option when Radulov can do so many different things with the puck. He can go in, he can pass, and I think that might take some of the focus off of Weber.
We forget, too, the Boston Bruins are the best penalty killing team in the league. Hello?
All right. I say this every week. The Habs are still number one in the NHL. Michel Therrien has gone most of his career receiving a lot of hate and vitriol, especially here in Montreal. Do you think he finally deserves a little bit of respect for what he's done with the team so far?
He deserves some love.
Some love.
And love from me, because I'm one of the people that called for his firing last year. I was dead wrong. I thought there should have been more onus on the coach last year to turn this team around. And the way I look at it now, I guess I didn't understand just how much of a distraction that P.K. Subban became and really hurt this coach as a coach. His hands were tied somewhat with P.K. Subban, and I just really think that hurt him last year. It hurt the whole team. And Michel Therrien, he has really good numbers as a hockey coach, and people say, oh, it's because of Price, it's because of that. Listen, here's the deal. He's put the numbers up, he's won hockey games, he's made the playoffs here. Last year, okay, we know what happened. They fell flat in their face, and they did not get up. Bergevin said it. They made changes this year. Bergevin supported his coach, not only to the media and to the fan base, but he supported his coach by going out and making changes to this hockey club that gave this coach an opportunity to come in and do what he's doing this year.
Well, you say changes, and Michel Therrien is a changed man. This is a guy in junior when he coached in Laval. They called the arena the House of Pain. And after the Bruins game, he was asked about the Canadiens' toughness and how they showed toughness against the Bruins. And he said, I want my team to be intimidating, but with speed and with pace. He said, it's not the big hits, it's not that. And I think that's the modern day NHL now, is where speed and pace are more effective than having the fourth line, goons sitting on the bench. And he's done that. And as the injuries have happened, so far he's been able to keep this team going forward. And I think right now he has to be a candidate for the Coach of the Year in the NHL.
It's interesting to watch the growth of a coach the same way that you watch kind of the growth of the players. And we've certainly had a unique perspective here in Montreal to see that with Michel Therrien, how he's changed as a man and as a coach. But when you look at what they did last year, I'm curious if there's something that you can't blame on P.K. Subban. There seems to be a...
Listen, just look at the documentary, Skate Past the Noise. How can you skate past the noise when you are the noise? Hello?
I think there's a little bit of blame to go both ways there when you're talking about handling players, but certainly he's been given the tools to play the style that he wants to play as a coach, which I think is a huge factor as well. So you have that great combination, as Chris was mentioning, of your general manager.
I like PK, but I have to admit that video was a little bit narcissistic. But Terry, talk about him changing. Talk about Therrien changing also. He cancels a lot of practices. And some fans go crazy, they're not practicing again, But Max Pacioretty had a good conversation with him, and he said that Chicago Blackhawks sort of started this. He said when Dale Weiss, I guess it was Dale Weiss he was talking about, he didn't name him by name, but when he joined the Blackhawks last year, he said they didn't have one full practice as a team from the end of the season right through the playoffs. So the players really appreciate the rest, and Max Pacioretty said that rest is a weapon, and I think Michel Therrien has realized that. Okay, it's time for our HIO viewer question of the week. This week's question comes to us from Dale Riesling of Calgary, who asks, should the Habs re-sign Carey Price after next season? If so, would $9 million per year for 6 years get it done?
No, trade him. He's washed up.
Yeah, I agree.
Of course they should. This guy's a cornerstone of the franchise right now, and $9 million's not going to do it. I'm thinking more around 11. You're going to have to look at the profits of the league and all that stuff. There's so many things that go into it, but it's going to be closer to 11, maybe 12.
But I think it's the length that is going to be interesting because he is 29 years old. He's had knee issues, as we all know. So
It's going to be 7, 8 years, Stu.
Yeah.
He's going to want it. You want the security.
Yeah, but you got Charlie Lindgren as the goalie of the future coming up too. So you wonder.
Come on,
at
Charlie
that-
Lindgren. Come on. Come on,
People
Stu.
used to-
Charlie Lindgren.
People
Go back
used to
to
say-
college and finish your degree, Charlie. That's what I say.
People used to say Carey Price. That was, but I wonder like how long. And he is going to want the security. There's no doubt about it. And he deserves it. But I'm just wondering how many years do you give him?
Well, come on. If you gave PK that contract, okay, as volatile and as crazy, Carey Price is everything you want, and a guy who represents your organization.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
You got to give him the dough.
Throw
I'm
the
just
money
thinking-
at
And the
him.
years.
Throw
There you
him
go.
the money, the
There
years,
you go.
whatever he
Try not
wants.
to get hurt as he signed. Please try not to get hurt.
Well, maybe they could defend them a little better too. That would help.
Who has the highest contract in the NHL right now? Do you guys know? Off the top of your head?
Well, as far as annual
What?
pay,
No,
Weber's right
Weber,
up there
the
at 12
annual.
million.
Yeah.
Because the way his contract was
The way it's
front loaded, he's
structured.
making 12
Okay.
million this year.
I mean, he should kind of arguably maybe be the highest paid guy. You know, he's been the MVP of the league unofficially or officially.
Well, as
for
Chris
so
says,
long.
I mean, it's going to take more. It's going to be double. It's going to be 10, 11, 12,
Yeah.
something along those lines.
Okay, so staying on Carey Price, last Thursday night here in Montreal, the Devils Kyle Palmieri flew skate first into Price's knees. He greeted him. He said, "Hello, welcome to the crease," with a bunch of body punches. What do you think about that incident?
These guys aren't even trying to stop in front of the goalie anymore. I mean, there's no attempt to stop
you
in
have
front
to
of
It's
the...
out to go to the net, though. That's the thing.
You can go to the net and
No,
just
you can't.
stop.
No, you can't.
Come on.
When you go to the net and you're trying to make a play, it's like the goal the other night in Boston. The guy's making a deke, and his momentum takes him into the net. Everybody said, oh, he can stop. You're focused on scoring a goal. It's very difficult to. Listen, I'm not sticking up for the guy. What I'm saying, it's very difficult to go to the net hard with the puck to score a goal and think, well, let me stop so I don't bump into the goal.
Come on, you guys are the
There's
best
a lot
skaters
of-
in the world.
There's a lot of guys in the NHL, including Brendan Gallagher, that are only in the NHL because they go to the net hard. That's how they get their goals, and they're not going to stop doing it. And the only way to stop them, I mean, Carey Price...
The defensemen have to stop
The defensemen
them.
have to stop them. It's not necessarily getting in a fight. It's either a little cross-check or you know, I don't know what Jeff Petrie was doing the other night. It looked like he was trying to protect the
I know,
guy
he's like,
from...
let me take him out
you know,
of the
he
way,
told
like-
me, I asked him about it. He said, well, I didn't really know how to react at first, and I was trying to save Carey Price from the extra penalty. I know how you would have reacted if you were on the ice.
Yeah, but it's so different now. It's like, but I just have a problem with that the goalie has to do it for himself. That's a problem. But then we see the next game, Gallagher goes and sticks up for a teammate. Maybe they talked about it, but there's no way Carey Price should be doing what he was doing the other night. Someone should have done that for him. But
I think if Nathan Beaulieu was on the ice, it would have been a different
How
story.
about the
Because Nathan,
officials?
it shouldn't
How
be
about
that.
the
It
officials
shouldn't be if
doing it for
Nathan was
them?
on the ice or this guy was on the ice. It should be the guy closest to him, even if the guy tiptoes through the tulips most of the season.
Going back to Brendan Gallagher, what happened to his scoring touch?
I talked with him the other day after morning skate, and he's almost confused with the rules now. What he can and can't do in front of the net. He said every referee is different, and he said he's talking to referees before the games now, trying to get an idea of what he can and can't do. It's almost like baseball umpires with different strike zones. So I think maybe that's part of it. It's definitely not work ethic, and I think maybe he's lost a bit of a confidence. I think once he gets one, he'll get a few though.
Yeah, his confidence probably shaking a bit, but you know when you're struggling like that and you're thinking instead of reacting, you're trying to hit corners instead of just hitting the net, you tense up a little, you're trying to be perfect. You want the perfect shot to go in, and you just got to get back to basics. And even if he doesn't score, I don't care, because you know what happens? It all gets cleaned up and the playoffs start and you get a new lease on life.
And he's still hard to play against Brendan Gallagher,
Exactly, and
whether
we
he's
see
scoring
this
or
every
not.
time a player like this goes into a slump. You start thinking too much, you're squeezing the stick. It's just one of those things that just perpetuates itself. The longer it goes, the harder it is to break that ice. But you know, I'm not too worried about him. I do wish he just needs to stop thinking so much. Just
How many
go in
goals
there.
did he have last year? What was it, 20 something?
He was-
Well,
yeah.
it was a big year.
He's in the teens. Huh?
Yeah, teens. Okay, we're not talking about freaking Howie Morin's here. Okay,
No,
folks? Let's go.
But the players really don't realize either. I was talking with Torrey Mitchell. Actually, I like that line now with Torrey Mitchell and Gallagher and Byron. I think three hardworking guys with speed. And I mentioned to Torrey that Gallagher had 1 goal in 22 games. You went, really? So the players on the team, he was sort of surprised by it
You feel
too.
like he's making more contribution than that, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
All right. That's our show for today. I want to thank the panel, Stu Cowan, Chris Nilan, who took his energy pills this morning, and CBC Daybreak's Andie Bennett. And I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back next Thursday, like always. And please subscribe, like, and share the video. Leave comments in the comment section below. Thanks for tuning in, Habs fans. See you next week.